Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. It's Thursday evening, Thursday night, but many of you will be listening to this show on Friday. So if it is Friday for you, I hope it's payday for you. Guys, it's a big weekend planned in Starkville, Mississippi. We hope that you'll attend and come be a part of the festivities. As you guys are well aware, Friday night we'll have the Diamond Dog Classic. Basically, the alumni baseball game. Been a long time since we've done one of those. It kind of have gone by the wayside. We used to do it a lot during the Polk era, and we just kind of got out of the habit of doing it. And maybe it's one of those things, too, where the excitement around Mississippi State baseball you just want any excuse to come out to Duty Noble Field. But, so that's Friday night. Before that event, I will be signing books from 4 to 6 at Maroon & Company. So if you're on your way to Duty Noble Field, you'd like to come by and get some signed books, you can do that at Maroon & Company. Just to skip, hop and a jump from campus. So swing by, check it out. And, of course, Saturday. A lot going on Saturday, even before the football game. As you guys know, SEC Nation is going to be here. Barstool Sports, our buddy Brandon Walker is going to be here, and the Georgia Bulldogs are going to be here. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts on Georgia later in the show. We're going to preview the weekend that is to be, another kind of an abbreviated weekend. We got a cool top 10 list for you and a few other things. We'll talk a little bit about Mississippi State men's basketball win, and a lot of things coming up. It's overlap now, right? Just as football's regular season is preparing to wind down, the non-conference schedules for both the Mississippi State men and women ramping up. And, of course, we'll have NCAA tournament soccer here soon. Lady Bulldogs took on LSU today. So we'll made the Final Four, kind of validated where we should be. But a lot of things going on. But we have had some weekends in the past that I know that it was probably a bit of an effort on your part to make the trip up here. And listen, I get it, man. Get hotels up here, game day weekends, it's tough. It is. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm oblivious to that. I live here, so I don't have to deal with that. But many of my friends do. I got a lot of friends like, man, it's kind of crazy. And we don't get any endorsements from hotels around here, but one of the things that I would encourage you to do, just throwing this out there, is maybe consider the Hotel Chester. If it's a landmark, but you could probably save a few bucks staying there, and then of course you're right there in downtown. A lot of cool stuff to do in downtown. I'm just throwing that out there as a Starkvillian and as your friend. That's probably a place you don't think about, but it may be an option for you. All right? Maybe you can save a few bucks. But anyway, we want you to be here. Hardy is going to perform Saturday morning as well. Kind of a surprise. So we're getting a lot of stuff, and give Mississippi State a lot of credit for trying to make this weekend a big event. There's a lot going on to entice you to come be a part of things in Starkville, and we hope that you'll do that. And many of you, hey, maybe it's just a day trip, right? It's like, Steve, I'm going to come up, stay Friday night, come back Saturday, or I'm going to get up Saturday morning, drive up for the game. And that's a real commitment there, too. That's one of the things, too, I would say, like about our visitor list this weekend. It's difficult, to get out-of-state players here for Saturday 11 a.m. kicks. Now, we kind of catch a break. A couple of states have like their bye week, before the playoff starts. So some of those guys will be able to come. But there's some other ones. It's difficult. You got to play a hard-fought game on Friday night and then have to get up and travel on Saturday morning. It can be difficult for us. There was a stretch there. I felt like we were locked into 11 a.m. At least those 3 o'clock games, it gives us an opportunity to get prospects here. But nevertheless, we need you to be here. I encourage you to be here. There are still a lot of tickets for sale. So the Georgia Bulldogs haven't just, snatched them all up. There are still opportunities for you through hellstate.com/tickets. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. We love Bulldog Burger Company. We have for a long time. I love going to eat at Bulldog Burger Company. A lot of times I get it to go. I do. A lot of times I go pick it up, and Dana and I will eat at the spa, or she'll bring it home. And they do such a good job packaging the to-go order. That's one of the things that irritates me about some places. If you get it to go, it's like it's going to be a mess when you get home, right? Not the case. They do such a great job up there. And I think they kind of perfected the to-go order during COVID. And then the benefits of that still exist to this day. So if you're in a hurry, you live locally, and you're craving Bulldog Burger Company, but you got to get it to go, you're going to be pleased, okay? The reality of it is, too, is Bulldog Burger Company has just kind of become an institution around here. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. You know this. It's true. And some of you are slacking. I see it. There's some of you, the filters don't help. You got to get back on the spring rolls. Find your own favorites. If you're a newbie, just grab the Bulldog Burger. You'll never go wrong with the Bulldog Burger itself. Never. Never. But if you want to branch out a little bit, try some other options. A lot of great ones on that menu. And maybe you're not feeling like a burger, but everybody else is. Get that BLT salad. I prefer it grilled. You may like it fried. It's up to you. And get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Stark Vegas. Gloucester Street there in Tupelo. Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Floyd area. Bulldog Burger Company. The place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. You can probably tell I'm feeling better. Yeah, and again, thank you so much for so much support, man. Like I talked about it on the show about the little incident we had out here, and I've had a lot of people that have reached out. I even had some people in law enforcement that have reached out from around the state, kind of offering, some suggestions and things of that nature. And I do appreciate it. I really do. But, my mom, I think, texts me about once an hour, and that's the collateral damage and all that stuff, right? All the people that love you, even if you're doing great and you're doing okay, the people that love you worry. And I guess it's good to be worried about, but I wish there was nothing to worry about. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it's another SEC football weekend, and I'm excited about that. And it's one of those things, too, that it's easy for me to kind of transition kind of into work mode, right? Because that's basically all I do these days is an empty nester. But like we've already made our arrangements for next week at Missouri. We've got everything lined up. Matter of fact, on next Friday, see, we won't do a high school game this week because we're going to be covering the Diamond Dog Classic. We won't do a high school game next week. And we were kind of like thinking, is there any way we could coordinate something and still make it to Missouri in plenty of time? And we just couldn't find anything that made a lot of sense. You know what we're going to go do? We're going to go watch a basketball commitment in Branson, Missouri play on Friday night. Yeah, and then we'll stay there and then get up and make the move to Como and swing by my buddy Josh and Shaman's Harvest, his favorite pizza joint, Shakespeare's Pizza. So if you're headed to Missouri next week, check out Shakespeare's Pizza. It is some of the best pizza I've ever eaten in my life. And they are not paying me to say that. I'm just telling you, I had never been, went up for baseball. I hit up Josh, and he goes, hey, man, we're out of town. We're in the studio kind of working on some stuff for the new album. But swing by Shakespeare's Pizza. You owe it to yourself. And it was absolutely fantastic. So, again, if you're thinking about making that trip to Missouri next week for the football game to watch State beat the Tigers, make some time to go to Shakespeare's Pizza. This little traveling tip for you. I mean, a tip from the SEC road, right? So let's take a look at the weekend that is and how we think this thing is going to play out, right? And, again, it's an abbreviated schedule. Mostly SEC stuff. State and Georgia will get things underway at 11 a.m. And then at noon on the SEC Network Plus, the Citadel is playing Ole Miss. Now, on the Gene's Page Pick'em column, we only pick the spread, right? We don't pick winners. We used to just do winners, and then people were like, hey, well, you're not picking the spread. It's just easy to pick winners. So then we transitioned just doing the spread, and people are like, hey, I just want to know who's going to win the game. So I think next year we'll do both. We'll do straight up and against the spread, but we can't change midstream now. But because of that, there is no line between the Citadel and Ole Miss. There's no line. And so I'm going to pick the Citadel just because I can't lose. And it's just really me kind of being silly, right? Because I know like Ole Miss people will come read our stuff and they'll think, He's expecting the Citadel to beat Ole Miss. No, I'm not. I expect Ole Miss to win this game handily. But I can't lose by picking the Citadel. So I guess, my trolling knows no bounds, to channel the spirit of Doc Holliday. But yeah, Ole Miss will win that game. That's the thing, too. I mean, like, if you're Ole Miss, you just want to get out of this thing healthy. Win the game, get out of there healthy, get ready for next week. You got a lot to play for. And I notice here, too, like, you can get tickets to the Ole Miss Citadel game for like $10 if you're inclined. But you shouldn't be, because you should be headed to Starkville. Next week's opponent, Missouri, will host Texas A&M. This is a top 25 matchup, but let's be honest about this. Missouri is not the team they were without Pribula. They're not the same team. And they lose Sam Horn early in the season, as you guys know. He should be good to go for baseball. Guys, they're down to a true freshman. A true freshman quarterback. And so, and I watched Vanderbilt and Missouri today just because I wanted to go ahead and start. I've watched so much of Georgia this week. I said, I'm just go ahead and let's just kind of dial this thing up here and just kind of take a look, kind of where things, look at, what's the quarterback situation look like. But Matt Zollers took over in the second half of that game against Vanderbilt. They decided to do a quarterback sneak on like 4th and goal from the 1, and they didn't get it. And on that play, Prebula's leg kind of got twisted and rolled up behind. It was really kind of gruesome. And, man, you hate that, right? But this Missouri team, I'm eager to see how they look this week against an elite defense, right? I suspect what they're going to do is just line up Hardy and just kind of see if he can carry them. Try to shorten the game. Probably won't run much tempo. Try to keep that A&M offense off the field. And I don't know that Missouri has enough speed in the secondary to run with Concepcion and Mario Craver. I don't believe they do. I think A&M is going to win this game handily. The spread is 6.5. So A&M, the road favorite. And you kind of begin to wonder, too, what's the spread look like next week? Because I think a lot of people's opinion of Missouri football is going to be much different come Sunday. And listen, not everybody up there is a homer. They understand you get a true freshman quarterback against an elite pass rush like this. It's not going to be pretty. Now, I'm sure they'll put some wrinkles together. They'll kind of simplify some things, run some play action pass, rollout type stuff. You'll pound Hardy and do some play action pass, but they'll get the quarterback to kind of get outside. But watching this Missouri team, they don't look especially athletic on defense. They're pretty good up front, but they don't look like in the secondary that they can really run. And I think Texas A&M will really, really challenge them. And you know what? We challenge secondaries too. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I'm picking State to beat Missouri next week. But this week, I think A&M handles Missouri. I think 6.5 as a spread is just easy money. I think A&M is going to cover this easily. Auburn and Vanderbilt. What happens with Auburn now, with Derek Nix being the play caller and DJ Durkin being the interim coach. The Hugh Freeze situation has changed so much. But Vanderbilt, again, they lose the game last week, but man, a 21-point fourth quarter. I think Diego Pavia, I think we are like witnessing like the greatest player in Vanderbilt history. And some would say, but Steve, there's Jay Cutler. And I get it. And Jay spent a lot of time in the NFL. But Pavia is just a winner, man. And the kid never quits. Never quits. And I think Auburn going to Vanderbilt, with all this changes and stuff, you never know what's going to happen. I don't think Auburn offensively is good enough, and I do think that Vanderbilt defense is pretty good. I'm not going to say they're great or even really good. I think they're pretty good. And it's just hard to get a barometer on them watching them play defense against Missouri, but they played pretty good defense against Alabama. They didn't play defense well at all against Texas until the fourth quarter. And again, I give Texas maybe a demerit there for just kind of the edge comes off, right? So you're just like, hey, we're just waiting for the clock to run out. But against Diego Pavia, you just can't afford to do that. The guy's he's a special player. But I like Vanderbilt here. Vanderbilt favored at home by 6.5. I do think Auburn will come out with some new wrinkles. That's always the real challenge. And plus, there's all this euphoria with players. Because, like, hey, they're determined to show you it wasn't us, it was the coach. Even if they love the coach and even if they're loyal to the coach, they want to go out there and put some good things on tape. Whether they choose to stay at Auburn or not, or whether they're going to be draft eligible or not, you want to go put things on film. You don't want to dog it. You don't, because there's just too much money out there and too many opportunities. But I do think Auburn will make this a game for a half. I just don't know if they're going to have enough offensive firepower to overcome Pavia mania there in Nashville. So we'll take Vandy and the points. The primetime game, the one that everybody's been waiting for from the beginning of the season, has lost a lot of its luster. LSU in Tuscaloosa, and like tickets for this game are actually pretty affordable. Yeah, it's true. 5 years ago, this would have been the game of the year in the SEC. It's not. LSU's 5-3, and that's one of the things you start thinking about too if you're Mississippi State. You start looking at this LSU schedule, and you start thinking about, man, what if State can get a couple more and have some momentum and some stability going into the bowl season? And LSU likes to travel, but the reality of it is they're not necessarily a great, bowl team. They're not the team that's going to draw a lot of interest with the bowls. They're going to be in a bowl, provided they get a bowl eligible, and they should. But you start looking at this thing and you start thinking, we could actually pass them in the pecking order. We could. Going to require a little help. But they go to Bama this week, and it's home against Arkansas, then Western Kentucky. That should be a dub. And then you got to go to Oklahoma. So you're probably staring at a couple more losses. I think that's fair. Now, I do think the LSU players will get up to play Alabama because, yes, it's Alabama. And kind of for the same reason we talked about with Auburn, you want to put good things on film. I just don't know if LSU's going to have enough. And it's like you go back to the beginning of the year, when all this stuff got out about Nussmeier, about the knee and he's injured, and, where it's like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's just a recurrence of a previous thing. Maybe that's true. But it just felt like LSU's been snake bit from the beginning. He couldn't run the football. And then, I have this discussion with people all the time. You learn a lot more from your mistakes when you're not so busy denying you made them. And I think Brian Kelly suffered from some of that. They barely beat Louisiana Tech. And it's just so interesting. They go back in hindsight. Well, did you see? And what can't your team run the football? Well, didn't you see the last play? All you need is one. No, you don't, Brian. You need a lot more than one. And I think that's one of the things, too. You look at Brian Kelly now, and I think the mystique of Notre Dame maybe helped him in a national recruiting space where going to play in front of Touchdown Jesus with the Golden Dome propped him up a little bit. And I think when he got down here at LSU and he had to, maybe at Notre Dame you had to go head to head with Alabama or Georgia on a couple of kids, but you get down here at LSU and every out-of-state recruiting battle involves Texas A&M, Alabama, Auburn. It's a different animal down here in the South. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of athletic directors have to consider. Until you have coached in this league, you don't know how to recruit in this league. I don't care how good you are. It's a different beast. It just is. And how many times do we see it? Harsin goes in at Auburn, right? He had done some great things at Boise State. He was terrible. Terrible at Auburn. And even worse as a recruiter. And then, granted you've had multiple portal classes, but, Hugh Freeze kind of inherited that roster that was very thin. So you got to go in the portal. And so there's no excuse for Hugh Freeze. I'm not making any excuses. But it's like when you hire a coach that struggles to recruit in the Southeastern Conference, eventually the chickens come home to roost. And I think that's kind of where LSU is now. You look at them, they are not nearly as explosive on offense. And we talked about this before. Can you name LSU starting running back? I suspect you can't. But he's not a household name within the Southeastern Conference. And when's the last time you've been able to say that? Right? It's just, has LSU played a meaningful game this year? I don't think they have. And I think they're going to play one this weekend, and I think Alabama's going to get them. The Tide favored by 9.5. I can't remember the last time they were nearly a double-digit favorite against LSU. But I'm sure somebody will remind me. But, I like Alabama here. I think Alabama has found their stride, and I think they'll be up to play this game. Florida and Kentucky, that's a bit of a snooze fest, isn't it? 2, 3, and 5 teams going head-to-head. Florida's the more talented team. I don't think anybody could argue against that. Billy Gonzalez did a good job last week, and after watching the Georgia-Florida game, like in its entirety, I think it's pretty safe to say you could make an argument they should have won the game. And I said earlier in the week, that start of reception probably kind of changed everything. Not really. There were multiple opportunities for Florida to really put some distance between themselves and Georgia, and they just couldn't get it done. But I do think Billy will do a good job. But it's so different, like with the whole Kentucky-Florida thing. Gonzalez from the Dan Mullen tree, and Stoops, of course, has given Dan Mullen some fits. And so there's still a lot of those same concepts in the Florida offense. So I'm eager to kind of see what they cook up. But it's just so weird to me. You think about the difference in talent, but how different it is when you got to go to Lexington and play. Last year in Gainesville, Florida wins 48-20. The year before in Kentucky, the Wildcats win 33-14. And, of course, the year before that, Kentucky wins in Gainesville 26-16. But it's all pretty nutty. I mean, it's like Kentucky puts together, a couple games every now and again. But, man, the streak here is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous how long this thing went before Kentucky finally won a game. Of course, that came against Dan Mullen. So it'll be interesting to see. And listen, let's be honest. You're only going to flip over there during commercial breaks because you're going to be glued on LSU and Alabama. But Florida, the road favorite at 3.5. I think Florida kind of recognizes that it's getting away from them, and if they want to make a bowl game, they're going to have to get hot here late. I don't think anybody expects Kentucky to make a bowl game. They're very offensively challenged, even though their kid was a co-freshman of the week this week. But you look at this Florida thing, too. Florida's going to have to win this week and then pull 2 upsets to be 6-6. Because you know what's after Kentucky? It's at Ole Miss, it's home against Tennessee, and it's home against Florida State. You might get Florida State, right? I mean, they played well in the rivalry game last week. So you win this one, you kind of keep hope alive. And it may boil down to beating Ole Miss or Tennessee. And, of course, Florida gave Ole Miss all kind of trouble last year, but this is a very beat-up Florida team. I think that's a fair assessment. But we're going to go with Florida with the 3.5. So your winners this weekend, and we'll talk Georgia-Mississippi State later. The Citadel, no, it'll be Ole Miss. Texas A&M, of all the games, I'm probably the most confident about that one among the league games. I mean, obviously, Ole Miss is going to kill the Citadel, or they should. I think the Vandy-Auburn game is a toss-up, but again, Vandy's the winner. Alabama, I'm going to take them, and Florida. So, again, we're kind of holding the chalk here a little bit and see if we can't throw you a curveball here a little bit later. But that's the SEC as we see it right now. But it's so interesting to me when you start working through all this stuff. The totality of the season, we talk about that because you never know what a team's going to look like when you play them. Beginning of the year, we thought, well, maybe we got a chance against Missouri on the road. And so we're like, they're playing so well. No, they've risen, top 10, top 15 in most polls. And now they're playing a true freshman quarterback. I mean, you just never know. And I guarantee you, our true freshman quarterback is better than theirs. And I'll bet my career on that. But it's just so interesting to start thinking about the dynamics of that as we kind of move forward. Because, again, the Bulldogs are 5-4 with 3 to play. You got to get at least one. We don't want to limit ourselves to, we just need to get one more. No, we got to get at least one more. We don't want to just get to 6 and be happy. And a lot of people are already starting thinking about bowl projections and that kind of stuff. Where would we go? It doesn't matter to me. I'd love to go to Nashville. Love Nashville. I'd be willing to go to Memphis, obviously Birmingham, whatever. I just want to get back in the postseason. I want to get the benefit of those bowl practices. But also, too, our fan base deserves something to truly celebrate, especially when it comes to football. There's a lot of other things that we've had some good moments with. But this is the best year that we've had since Coach Mike Leach's passing. You remember that 22 season. I think we all went into that thing thinking, you know what, we needed to beat Ole Miss. We needed to win a ball game. We needed to do some good things, close it out, get some juice. Well, we did that and thought we were on the right path. And then, we've kind of been adrift ever since. And I think Jeff Lebby brings some stability to this thing. And, of course, him winning last week has kind of reinvigorated the fan base. A lot of people have kind of flipped the script a little bit. And, of course, again, you're going to get criticized. You put Camario in, he gives you a couple touchdowns, you pull him. And in the moment, we're all kind of thinking, what are we doing? I was thinking it too. I turned to Jacob Bain and I was like, I don't know why you don't stick with the hot hand here. And, I go back and look at that second drive, and I get it. But it felt like he had settled a little bit. And, of course, he had the benefit of the short field. And Camario is going to be a star. I mean, a huge star. But Lebby made the right decision. We won the game. And if he had lost that game, probably been hell to pay, right? But he didn't. He won. And I think some people, too, feel a little bit better about Blake Shapen because of the way he performed. And listen, there's been some up and down with Blake. There has been. But I can tell you, I know how hard he's working to be your quarterback. You find a way to get in the win this weekend, all that stuff goes away, right? It truly does. All right, real quickly, let's take a look at the latest SEC availability report. I don't know why I don't just call it an injury report, because that's really what it is. But, we wrote a column earlier today kind of about how healthy Georgia is. They got a little beat up last week, and linebacker Chris Cole is not listed on the availability report, but we are told he is less than 100%. He will play on Saturday, but could be at a diminished capacity. Jordan Hall, defensive lineman, that's a new injury from last week. Got a knee banged up against Florida. He is listed as out, as is Colby Young. We talked about him on Wednesday's show. But defensive back DeMello Jones, still listed as questionable. That Georgia secondary has not been elite, especially with Kyron Jones on the shelf. So that's something to kind of watch. Mississippi State without Albert Reese this week. And, here's the thing. They were talking about maybe it'd be a game time type decision. I just kind of like, let's just kind of run it back and make sure Albert's ready for Missouri and Ole Miss. Give him one more week. It makes good sense to me. Isaac Smith is listed as probable. Isaac's still kind of dealing with that foot thing. Jerron Manning no longer listed on the report, so we expect him to be full go this Saturday. So Bulldog secondary should be good to go. And so really the only change from last week is no change. Albert Reese didn't play last week. Not going to play this week. So the same team that was on the field last week against Arkansas will be on the field this week for Mississippi State against Georgia. Now, Georgia won't be able to make the same claim, but just kind of scrolling through this thing, not a lot of changes, I guess. Missouri, of course, is getting down to their third quarterback, and their kicker, Blake Craig, is out. They're having to play a young kid back there. He's been very inconsistent. But Brett Northfleet is a guy that's been a big part of their offense. He is questionable, got banged up last week. Auburn, still a handful of guys that couple probables, couple questionables. Vanderbilt, really nothing else to report. They got 5 guys out, and that's kind of been the case. LSU's been a little bit beat up, a lot better maybe than it was earlier in the week. But the Weeks brothers, Zach and Witt, Zach is now listed as out. Witt is doubtful against Alabama. So you're going to lose a couple linebackers against an Alabama team that likes to run the football. Ryan Williams has been up and down a little bit for Alabama. He's probable to play, and then Danny Lewis, a tight end, is questionable. So it looks like both of these teams will be pretty much where they were. Now, Drake Kirkpatrick, the very talented corner from Alabama, was suspended this week and is out. And if you kind of read between the lines with Kalen DeBoer's comments, it appears that Drake kind of admitted to the conduct, and it did not, meet the standards of Alabama. So we'll see what happens with him long term. But he is out this week against LSU. Florida, of course, has a ton of players out. I mean, a ton. It's been a very physical year for them. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. Kentucky got a lot of guys out too. A lot of injuries around the league. So even though it's an abbreviated week, you got a lot of guys having to sit out. And so, again, I just kind of reemphasize, the same team that beat Arkansas for Mississippi State expected to be on the field this weekend against Georgia. All right, time for our close with Blair player of the day. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. Blair and I traded some text messages this morning. Yeah. Big things are happening in the world of Blair Chandler. We'll have more details for you later. 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Just save that number in your phone as Mortgage Guy. I don't expect you to remember his name because you know what it's going to be like. Who's that mortgage guy Steve's always talking about, baby? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. Just put Mortgage Guy on your phone. Just make it simple, right? Make it simple. It's a simple step to begin a very complicated process that can be made a lot more simple because Blair is your mortgage loan originator. It's true. So Blair tells me they're going to be closing a couple of Boneyard loans in December. That really makes me happy. Number one, you guys are getting the dream of home ownership, but also two, you're using our sponsors, right? It's great. And I can tell you the reviews will be fantastic. Blair's got 25 years of experience in this industry. He's the guy that knows how to get things done. Simple as that. He will get things done when so many others can't. So whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo that may prove to be more affordable than you think, hit up Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com. Okay, top 10 list. Now, before we get started here, I need to remind you the top 10. I need to tell you who your player of the week today is. It's Javen James, right? Javen James. How fortunate are we to have him? Like, he was just kind of a late ad, right? He transferred from Akron to Maryland, and then post-spring, he decides to get back in the portal, and maybe at their urging, who knows? But where would we be without Javen James? And with Albert Reese out this week, having Javen again, I think he looked pretty comfortable at right tackle. Jacob Bain does the trench report weekly for us, former offensive lineman, not some random clown. But he mentioned kind of the same thing. He said he thought Javen looked more comfortable, and it's more difficult to play left tackle than right. But Jimothy, probably our most athletic tackle. Albert, our best tackle, probably lineman, period. But the reality of it is Javen James has been there when we've needed him. You remember he played left tackle, every snap at left tackle against Arizona State and win there. So we're going to need him to step up this week and really do a good job against a Georgia front that doesn't have a lot of sacks, but they've got a lot of athletes. They do, and they do a lot of late blitzing. They've got a lot of free runners and things like that. We've struggled at times with that. So we've got to be able to communicate and kind of pick up that late blitzer. Got to keep Blake shape and standing up right. And Javen James is going to be a big part of that. Now, top 10 list brought to you by Kalido Guitars. I don't know that there is a Kalido guitar played on any of the songs we're going to talk about today. It's a little different genre for us. But my guitar that I play is from Kalido Guitars. I've got an Ibanez Steve Vai signature, and I love it, man. I love it. I love it. It makes me happy. Like every time that I unzip that gig bag and I pull it out and I plug it in, even if I don't play for very long, just something about holding that beautiful instrument in my hand just makes me feel better. And sometimes I get a little frustrated because I'm not better. The only way you get better is to practice. You don't practice, you don't get better. You continue to be frustrated. You got to be patient with yourself, but there's a lot to it. And so I encourage you to reach out to the experts at KalidoGuitars.com. Instead of just buying some, guitar from some cockamamie online shop, deal with the experts. Visit them at KalitoGuitars.com. You can go by their showroom in Lake Jackson, Texas. You can call them on the phone. Maybe you're a seasoned guitar player and you like things a certain way. Yeah, they'll work with you on that. A lot of other places don't. You'll order a guitar and it comes in. You have to do the work. It's nice of them to kind of take the extra step because they love you. They're guitar players themselves. So whether you're a newbie, whether you're a moderate or intermediate player or an expert or a professional, you can find your next guitar at Kalito Guitars. Christmas is coming up. I think the gift of music is a wonderful gift. It's just part of the deal. So whether you need an electric, acoustic, a classical, maybe a 12-string, maybe you've always thought about that, how beautiful music sounds on a 12-string, or an electric. Yeah, that's the way to go. Be sure and check them out at KalitoGuitars.com. They're going to give you a little incentive to do business with them. Use promo code BSR. You can use it in person. You can use it over the phone. You can use it online, of course. That's going to get you a 10% discount. That's going to get you no shipping. That's going to get you no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. And they're going to make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. What a great deal for you to get professional grade gear at a discounted price just by listening to this show and Mississippi State benefits. It's a win-win-win for everybody. So make Kalito Guitars your stringed instrument shop, primarily in guitars, but you know what? They do a little bit of everything. So be sure and check them out. And I know, Mom, you're thinking about that, right? Am I ready to upgrade? Maybe your player, you got him a guitar at the pawn shop or whatever, a hand-me-down, and you and I both know it's not sufficient. Maybe they have reached a level of proficiency. Maybe it's time to upgrade the rig. Maybe it is. And Kalito Guitars can do that for you at a discounted price. Be sure and check them out today, KalitoGuitars.com. Okay. I get a lot of suggestions from some of you about R&B and about rap, and it's not really a strong suit for me. I do love the early 2000s rap, and so I'm going to satisfy that craving for some of you today because we're going to do rap artists from Georgia. Now, before we get started, I don't want to be judged for this because this is not really in my wheelhouse, especially this later stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I know that some of you are going to criticize me for it, and I'm okay with that. But this Young Thug and 21 Savage stuff, I don't get it. I don't get it. Lil Yachty, I don't get it. You may love it, but it's not the art form that I grew up with. That's not to say that it's bad. It's just not my taste. It's not what I'm used to coming, from Atlanta in the early 2000s. But music changes. It evolves. And if you like it, that's perfectly fine. But please, I ask that you not think less of me because we don't share taste, especially about a genre that's not really, a big part of my life. But this particular song is on my personal music library. And I love it, man. I do. I think, number one, I think the track is elite. I think Trinidad James does a great job, too, lyrically. And, of course, you bring in Mystical, too. But it's Trinidad James just a little thick. And you know the hook, right? She ain't fat, brah. She's just a little thick. It's true. She ain't chubby. She's juicy. Number 9. Now, this guy, I think, is a better rapper than maybe he's given credit for because many of his hits have kind of been crossover top 40 stuff. He had a big hit with Haley Williams, Mississippi's own Haley Williams, the lead singer of Paramore, Airplanes. And it's great. I love it. I remember going to see Boca Chica High School play football, and they didn't have like a marching band, but they had like a bass. Maybe I was at Puckett. Anyway, it was one of those small schools, but they played Airplanes, and like everybody sang along. I think this is super cool, right? But we're going to go with Built Like This. And I'm going to give you, again, a lyrical content warning for a lot of these songs. And I'm just telling you, maybe you don't want to listen to them in your car with your kids. And Built Like This is kind of one of those. But I like the machismo in this one. I do. Number 8, I really dig this guy. And still around. He's done a lot of guest spots for people. And I think, in my estimation, from the late 90s on into the 2000s, 2010s, I think he's one of the best rappers from Atlanta and probably one of the best rappers a lot of people don't know. We're going Pastor Troy here. Pastor Troy, Are We Cuttin' is our number 8 track. If you don't know it, check it out. Number 7, lot of Lils these days, like, Lil Wayne, Three Little Pigs, Lil Yachty. There's a lot of that, right? Little Baby. Some of the stuff I don't get. I kind of lump it in with some of the other stuff. And again, I'm not being critical. I'm just telling you my personal taste. But I do really dig the track Whoa. I think it's cool. I really do. I like the track. I like the vocal delivery on it. I think it's one of the better songs in the catalog. Now, I think that everybody from this point forward will know these songs. And I guarantee you, even if you don't know them, you've heard them. Because a lot of these songs have been played at sporting events that you've attended. Okay? Number 6, man, I dig this track. I dug it. It seemed like every high school football game that I went to for like 3 years, they played this in pregame. And so I kind of picked it up from there. And, of course, Drew Lock from the Denver Broncos kind of made it famous again, too. But it's Jeezy's Put On. And Jeezy's got some depth in the catalog, too. But I like it, Put On for My City. You know that song. Like if you hear it, like, oh, yeah, I know this, Steve. Absolutely, you do. Number 5, Janet Jackson's ex-boyfriend, Jermaine Dupri. I know some other people would say, Steve, he's not really a strong rapper, and I get it too, but he kind of fits the genre, and I really like Welcome to Atlanta. I've always liked that track, and it's one of those things too. I want to get back to Atlanta at the SEC Championship game at some point, and we can play it like on our ride over. All right, number 4. Now, this is a band, I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, I didn't get them. I didn't get them in the beginning. And I kind of lumped them in because, like, my kids love these guys. And I kind of lumped them in with some of these others. But they have, I think, tremendous talent. Now that I have listened to more of them over the years, and, of course, they had a very tragic death within the family. Yeah, we're talking about Migos, and we're going to go with Walk It Like I Talk It at number 4. Walk It Like I Talk It. Offset. All right, number 3. And I think these next 3 are absolute legends. And I mean like long-time legends. Not just, there's somebody drops 2 albums and people say they're the GOAT. They're not the GOAT, and you're stupid for even saying that. Okay, stop doing that. You can't just GOAT somebody that's brand new. They're still wet behind the ears. But when you think about some of these artists here that have been around for decades and have made millions when it's come to music, it's a different dynamic. But number 3, we're going T.I. I love the Jay-Z intro, and I love the horns on this one. It's Bring 'Em Out. And everybody's heard it. Bring 'Em Out. We still play it at Davis Wade Stadium because it's a classic rap song. And I think T.I. is really good. I know there's a lot of beef out there, and some people don't like him. I think he's very talented. Number 2, the featured act at Bulldog Bash. We didn't get to attend because we have to go cover college football, but it's Ludacris. And we could go with 20 different songs here, and people would say, I get it. But I'm going to go back to the beginning. I love What's Your Fantasy. Love that video, too. But we're going to go with Southern Hospitality as our number 2 track from Luda. And, of course, he's great in the Fast and the Furious movies. Great. But number 1, I think it's the best rap artist to ever come from the state of Georgia. I don't care if it's from Lawrenceville or from Atlanta or from Athens or from Macon or from Stinson Mountain, Butler. I don't care where they are. It's Outkast. I have an Outkast shirt that I wear with pride. And my favorite Outkast song, without any question, is B.O.B. Bombs Over Baghdad. I absolutely love that track. The video is freaky. I love Big Boy and Andre 3000. I wish they would do some more music together. But they're legendary, man. I mean, like Stank On You is just, it's incredible. It is an incredible album. And I think one of the things that allowed them to cross over is because the lyrical delivery made them so much better. They actually had some flow, right? A lot of these guys today, one of the things about the modern rap movement from the Atlanta area is there's a lot of affected vocals and like this mumble rap and stuff. I just don't get it. If you do, that is fine. I love you just the same. I just don't think there will be another Outkast ever. And Andre 3000 is an absolute superstar. And I love the fact that he was Possum Jenkins in the Roses video. playing the bass guitar and played like he was every member of the band. I love it, man. I love going back and listening to those classic Outkast tracks. I think you dig it too. So again, I tried to work in some newer stuff and some stuff that I'm more familiar with. I did some research. I listened to a lot of rap. And I'll be honest with you, some of these songs, about 20 seconds in, I had to go. I said, this didn't hold my attention. And I think one of the things now in music, not just in rap music, you can download Pro Tools to your home PC. And so everybody out there can make a track, or everybody out there can make beats for you. And I think it's been very watered down. And it's not just on the rap side. That's on the rock music side, the country side. Making music is a lot more accessible, which is a good and a bad thing. Anybody can do it, and the bad thing is anybody can do it. But that's your top 10 list for today. And we hope that you enjoy those lists. I know some of you are probably surprised to hear this, but my buddy Demi Brown, I think, will be happy, even though that our decisions would probably be different. I guarantee you he's going to message me and say, Steve, you blew it. You missed this one. You missed. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm not pretending to be an expert here. I'm just talking about what I like. And I think that's one of the most important things is, share some dialogue. Let people know what you like and what you're about. And I think one of the biggest problems we have in America today is we don't give people room to disagree. We just don't. And I say it on the show from time to time, and I got some friends like this, and I have to pause them on Facebook sometimes. Because if your political identity has become your identity, then you don't have much of an identity. I don't care who you vote for. Those things just don't matter to me. I value you as a person. I don't pick my friends based on their political affiliations. I don't buy records based on people's political affiliations. I don't go out of my way and say, well, I can't buy this guy's record because I think he voted for so-and-so. I just don't live my life that way. I'm just not going to put myself in a box. I'm going to like what I like, and I'm going to live life to the fullest as best I can. And I give you room to disagree. And I've shared this with you guys before. Man, some of the best friends I have are people that we see the world a lot differently, but we see value in each other, and we love each other. And I think sometimes having those friends in your life that see the world differently is a real, real, real strength to be able to bounce ideas off people. And if you come at people respectfully, right? And there are some people that are very insecure. Like even if you come to them and say, listen, I just want to understand, and I'm really asking you out of education. I just want to understand what is it we're trying to accomplish here? What is it these people are so upset about? Where am I going wrong here? Where am I missing? And if you approach people like that, in humility, people that are actually intelligent and secure in their beliefs will tell you in a respectful way. But there are other people you go out there, what do you mean? You don't see it? No, I'm trying to understand. Then all of a sudden you feel attacked, right? And so you just think, it's not worth it. So I think you need some people in your life that love you, that may see the world differently. And I've got some people that are blood that see the world a lot differently than I do. And there are just certain things we don't talk about over Thanksgiving, but there are other times we'll get together and I'll say, listen, I just want to understand. I just want to understand. And I'm a person that believes in educating yourself. But the problem with that is online these days, the way these algorithms work, you just keep getting fed the same trash, man. Like you get on TikTok and all of a sudden you spend a couple minutes watching a video about some topic and then it starts feeding you more of what they think you want to keep you locked into your phone. And sometimes you got to put your phone down and just have an honest conversation with somebody. It's true. But if you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samonti, my friend, and I have no clue who he voted for and don't care. Find him on X at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC67. And you can find our great list on Spotify under that same handle. Roy gets a little bit behind sometimes, but he does get caught up, okay? And I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. Man, we love Campus Bookmart. We do, and why? Because they have the things we want. Don't overthink it. Don't complicate it. Just stick with somebody that knows what true maroon is. They're Bulldog fans just like you through and through. They wouldn't stock something that wouldn't look great in their own homes. So trust their expertise and do your shopping there. Everybody wants more Mississippi State gear for Christmas. Mom, don't overthink it. Go ahead and get ahead of the game. You can be that kind of mom this year. Go ahead and buy a few things from Campus Bookmart when you're in town this weekend, or perhaps online if you can't make it to town. You can visit them at campusbookmart.net, and I'll give you some incentive to do business with them. Promo code BSR. That's a phrase that pays. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. And I can tell you, Dad, sometimes can be difficult to buy for, or so you think. You buy him that fresh new quarter zip, he's going to love it. He's going to wear it all the time. Maybe get him an M/S cap too. You'll be glad you did. You want to see smiling faces on Christmas morning, get more Mississippi State gear. And let me just kind of pump again the diploma frames, a very thoughtful and timeless gift that they'll never replace. And they'll look at that diploma and they'll always remember that you got it for them. Campus Bookmart. All right. Mississippi State men's basketball opened the season on Wednesday night with an 86-62 victory, and it was a tussle for a half, and a lot of people started panicking. Guys, you got a lot of new people playing together for the first time, and you got to be patient. You said, but it's the same thing for North Alabama. Exactly. That's why we drilled them in the second half. It's a one-point game at the break, and the Bulldogs just pull away, put up, point differential of 23 points in the second half and cruised to an 86-62 victory. State made the run, and there just wasn't a way for them to kind of keep pace. Bulldog defense really cranked it up as well. And what's interesting, like you start working through this, you start thinking about first half and second half. In the first half, North Alabama shot 47%. In the second half, they shot 28%. They were 60% from three in the first half and 11% in the second half. And they shot basically the same number. They were 7 of 19 from three. 6 of those 7 made threes came in the first quarter. Bulldogs did a pretty good job, too, not fouling. Just 12 free throws attempted. They did make 7 of them. Look at the Bulldogs side of things. Josh Hubbard leads the way with 27 points. No surprise there. 3 of 8 from beyond the arc. 7 of 16 from the field. But importantly, 10 of 12 from the free throw line, and that's probably one of the worst games that Josh will have this year. Also dished out 8 assists, and it's a good game for him. Picked up a couple steals. Quincy Ballard, a guy that we're expecting some big things from. He's 4 of 5 from the floor with 8 points. Sean Jones is kind of the glue guy. Not a great offensive night, 3 of 10, but he did pull down 9 rebounds and played elite defense, as he always seems to do. Also had a couple of steals in the ball game. But a lot of new players. Jabari McGee, your second leading scorer with 14 in 23 minutes of action. So got a chance to play a lot of players, get them out there, kind of get them in the flow of things. Jamari and Davis Fleming, one of the newcomers, 19 minutes. 19 minutes of action there. And so, we'll kind of see how this team progresses. But, there's no way I'm making any judgments about this team after it's one game. 42 points in the paint for the Bulldogs, 15 off turnovers, 13 second chance points, 17 on the break, and that's an area we can always improve upon. 37 from the bench, but that's a byproduct, of course, of playing a lot of players. But the lead changed hands 6 times in this ball game until State decided that the game was over, and they did it. Men will be back in action very, very soon. That's how this thing works. Men's basketball, we get going again. On Monday, we'll be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I give Chris Jans a lot of credit for playing many of these non-conference games on the road. So Iowa State on Monday, 7 p.m. You can find that broadcast on ESPNU. And, of course, listen to the official radio call, through the regular Bulldog basketball affiliates, but also to the Varsity app. Be back in Starkville on Saturday the 15th. We'll be at Missouri then. But for those of you not making the trip, you can come on back up to Starkville and see some Bulldog basketball. The ladies will be in action tomorrow, and it's going to be an early tip. It's Education Day. A lot going on, right? A lot going on. Bulldogs beat Davidson 66-57 back on Monday. We talked a little bit about that earlier in the week. But, again, Friday morning, when many of you are listening to this show, 11 a.m. tip from Humphrey Coliseum. There'll be a lot of people there. It's interesting, like our media folks will tell you. The kids are just happy to see a shot made, right? Like even though there's some State fans in the group, there's a lot of a lot of kids that are going to be there just be like, hey, I'm just happy to see a game. I'm just happy to get out of school. But Georgia State will provide the competition. They won against Oglethorpe in game one, 101-59. So it may end up being a little bit of a tussle. I mean, they can score. I mean, against just a small sample size there. But you got to wonder a little bit about, how many people are going to commit to come spending the day in Starkville tomorrow. Right? Come knock out the basketball game, maybe go do some shopping, have a great lunch, and then get on back out there for the festivities at Duty Noble Field. So, again, a lot going on. It's not Super Bulldog weekend, but it kind of feels that way with so many activities going on around campus. But, we look forward to seeing another Bulldog basketball win. Certainly, there's just a lot to think about when you begin to consider this early in the year. You got to find out who you can trust. It's just like with everything else, like even with baseball. I mean, you got to keep trotting people out there and figure out how they can handle adversity. So you'll see that on the men's and the women's side. But again, it's good to be 1-0 on both sides. Not really a challenging non-conference schedule for the women. Not like it has been at times. We got to go to Texas Tech. That'll be a tough one. But outside of that, I think State's got a good chance to win the rest. We'll see what Pitt looks like when we get there. But a lot of great ball games in Southeastern Conference play, as you guys know. And I don't really know what to expect from the women. I really don't. I know what to expect from the men, I think. Going to be a hard-nosed defensive team. It's still kind of figuring some things out in the post, but you got one of the most prolific scorers in college basketball in Josh Hubbard. I think the women, it's going to take them a little bit longer to kind of settle their identity, which kind of makes sense that you would have maybe a little less challenging non-conference schedule. Kind of figure some things out in the rotation before you get into SEC play. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, let's talk a little bit about the soccer team, too. We discussed that a little bit. As you guys know, the ladies make the Final Four in the SEC tournament. And a couple of good wins. I mean, you pick off Oklahoma in an 8-9 game, and then you beat top number one seed Arkansas, and then lose to LSU 3-1. Down there. And I think sometimes, too, when you have to play as many games as you do down there, you want to get your legs back under you. I think we accomplished all we needed to accomplish down there in Pensacola. You play the game, you want to win the game. But now we wait, to find out kind of where we're headed. I don't know what's going to happen, how this thing is going to play out the rest of the weekend around the country, and then we'll kind of see how things go. But Bulldogs, again, expected to be back in postseason play, as well they should be. And Allie Perry, of course, still the same player and not quite as shy as she used to be. She'll at least talk to us without, kind of looking at the ground. But Bulldogs wrap up the regular season in the SEC tournament with a 12-6-1 record overall. You know how well we played last year. And 5-4-1 in the conference. But, a couple of big non-conference games, too, like that big win over Wake Forest early on. That's a big one that kind of helps you. So we'll see how things go here. But again, a lot to feel good about if you're a Mississippi State Bulldog. Also wanted to point out, too, for those of you that may have missed it, Bulldogs also get another big gift. It's the giving season. But the Martin family comes through with $1 million. Yeah, that's always a great thing, right? And, our bills are never ending. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But that news was made public on Thursday. Bruce and Julie Martin, longtime sponsors of Mississippi State Athletics, gave us $1 million toward the IPF. It's going to be incredible. The Billy W. Howard Sr. Performance Facility. It's going to be great. And again, Zach Selman doing a good job. Kind of priming the pump a little bit. And if you know the Martins from Meridian, right, then you know them, right? So, again, thank you to the Martins, and thank you for what you're doing to help our dreams come true at Mississippi State. For those of you that maybe have $1 million or so just kind of laying around, Zach Selman may be calling soon, or you could save him the phone call and kind of reach out and say, hey, here's some naming opportunities, and I want to be a part of this, the future of Mississippi State athletics. It's always a great thing, too. But the reality of it is that I think, again, you look back, last year was kind of a difficult year for Mississippi State athletically, right? If we're being honest about it. But a lot of that we attribute to the fact that we didn't have a great football year, and then we had to fire a baseball coach. right? And people can argue that's probably a couple years coming. But the reality of it is, we made the NCAA tournament for the third straight year on the men's side. Didn't win a game. Need to win one this year. Women get back in the tournament. And, of course, soccer wins an SEC title for the first time in school history. But then you look this year, I think a lot of our feelings of optimism center around the fact that football is getting better and that baseball appears to have one of the best coaching staffs in the country. And we're recruiting at an exceptionally high level. Along those lines, too, Perfect Game finally updated some rankings. Bulldogs have skyrocketed from 19th in the country up to 9 in the country for the 2026 class. So you can feel good about that aspect of life, that, again, we're doing well. We want to do even better, and you're a part of that, too. And I think a big part of that is turning out this weekend. I know it's an 11 a.m. kick. I know it's an inconvenience. But the reality of it is we have a chance to have a historic day at Davis Wade Stadium, and we need every Bulldog we can possibly get there with cowbells in hand to give us a home field advantage. That kind of segues into our final segment of the show, brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle when you're bringing a large group to town, and you certainly should. We've done it. We've outgrown the house. Even though it's just me and Dana here, now we got 3 grandkids. It's difficult to find a place for everybody to sleep. Not to mention, don't tell the kids, but, we're not quite as tidy as we once were when they were here. But, that's life. You got 2 businesses to run. But we stayed there and had a great time. It's out past the Highlands at the old renovated clubhouse at the old country club. They made great use of that space. It is a beautiful facility, very easy to get to, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. Incredible amenities there. The full-service kitchen, the back porch area, the wet bar, the fire pit area, 6 bedrooms, 2 soon-to-be 3 baths. Plenty of parking. It's not something we talk about enough. When you get in a large group, that's one of the things you don't consider. Is there going to be enough room for everybody to park? Well, there is there, right? We used to have a ton of golfers out there parking, and then after their round of golf, they'd go hang out in the clubhouse and have a cold one. Well, there's not that demand anymore, but there's still all those parking spaces. So plenty of room for you and your guests, and you owe it to yourself to kind of do something special every now and again. It's easy to get caught up in routines, and you think, well, this just kind of works for me. Wouldn't it be great to bring everybody to town, whether it be a holiday weekend, a ball game weekend, and now that basketball's here, you can find a spot on a schedule where you've got some vacation time and come see the men play one night and women play the other. It's a great idea. So get people together, have some fun, whether it's a baby shower, a college roommates reunion, weekend, whatever. You can have a great time at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, when you Google that, Stark Vegas Clubhouse brand name, their Facebook page auto-populates for you. You can see all the pictures of all the amenities available to you guys. In addition to that, some booking options are going to pop up. Airbnb, VRBO, you can go that route if you want to. However, if you want to save a few bucks, I can help you. Book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10. Gets you 10% off your stay. And why would you want to pay more? Remember that. Be sure and go back and listen to the show, or maybe write that down. You owe it to yourself to get the family together and do something special in Starkville, your favorite city in the world. All right, let's jump into some discussion about Georgia. Again, I watched a lot of Georgia football today. Great content day over at genespage.com, so I didn't have quite as much to do. We had a lot going on. I think we got 11 stories today, and we'll have a bunch tomorrow too, because we got a women's basketball game to cover and the baseball game to cover. And we're going to have a couple different pieces, and see how that all kind of breaks out for you. Reminder, I will not be there right away. I'll be at Maroon & Company from 4 to 6, so I will miss the media opportunity before the game. But Jacob Bain, Dave Murray, Mike Nemeth will be there, and Mike will have the gamer, and I'm sure Jacob and David will find a player or two to run a feature with. I got some other things planned for my content for that, and so we're going to make it a special thing. Along those lines, too, we made a decision, me and my publisher, to provide books for the players and coaches just to make it a little more special, right? It's going to be special enough, but we wanted to show our own gratitude. And so some books provided to those players. I mean, they helped build the foundation and kind of build upon the foundation that came before them, and we feel like it's the least we can do. And we love doing it. We absolutely do. And we love those players. We love their families. And so we look forward to having a chance to see them get out there and play again on Duty Noble Field again. And you know as well as I do, a lot of those players, they probably thought they'd never have this opportunity again. And then all of a sudden we're doing this, and of course all the money goes to NIL and Bulldog Excellence Fund, and it's a tremendous thing, and it will be streamed. I didn't know early on, but Charlie Winfield has set us all straight. It will be streamed through the ESPN app, and so if you can't make it to town, you'll be able to stream that. I would maybe have charged you guys to do it to raise a little more money, even if it's $5-10, but we're going to do it. And you'll have a chance to see it. And talking to some people around the league, they'll tell you they think it's super cool that we're doing this. And they're considering following suit. A lot of people did the Savannah Bananas and raised a bunch of money, but they're not doing this. And as we mentioned on Wednesday's show, I think, again, it speaks well of Zach Selman and his administration that they're finding unique ways to generate revenue to push this athletic department forward. Okay, on to Georgia. One of the things that I have noticed is these guys can take a punch. You look at Alabama jumps on them 14-0, and Georgia had an opportunity to tie the game late and elected to go for it, didn't get it, and ultimately lost the football game. I'm sure in hindsight they wish they'd have kicked that field goal, but sometimes emotions rule the game, right? You get caught up in the moment sometimes and you don't do what you know you should. You don't do what the analytics maybe suggest. You just say, I just got a gut feel here. We're going to go for it. And you don't get it. Watching them against Florida, I really think the depth that Georgia has had historically has been eroded a great deal by the portal. Because everybody would say, well, you lose 1 4 or 5-star, you just plug in another one. Well, Anthony Evans is here for a reason, right? And I'm sure they would love to have him right now because they've got some wide receivers out for the season. But they didn't play him enough. Kirby Smart said earlier this week, hey, he's become what we always thought he would be. Well, why don't you play him? Why'd you relegate him just being a punt returner? And maybe the change of scenery has just been good for Ant, right? He's been great for us. We love it. And you know how big this game is going to be for him. And I think you got to get him involved early. Didn't have a great first half last week. Made some big plays late. And that's the thing I think about that last play of the game for us, the last true offensive snap when Anthony scored. When's the last time we had a receiver that could do that? You throw it out there in the flat, he slips a tackle, spins through another, and then runs over a guy. I mean, just, maybe Justin Jenkins. You hadn't had a lot of that. I mean, honest to goodness, you haven't had a lot of that. Now, I'm not going to worry about receivers as long as Levy is here. He and Bumpus are doing a great job identifying and recruiting talent that can come in here. And you look at Brennan Thompson, a guy that was just kind of an afterthought at Oklahoma. Now he's become one of the most explosive wide receivers in the country. And they play for your Mississippi State Bulldogs. And that's the thing that I consider about this Georgia team. With one starting safety out and another starting safety questionable. And you begin to think about some of the things that we do to attack a secondary. It's big. It's very significant. Because I really don't know if Georgia has somebody that can run with Brennan Thompson. And so I think you have the opportunity to blow the top off this defense. The most important thing for us, I think, is to come out and find a way to get the running game going. And that's easier said than done because Georgia's been very good against the run, not even giving up 100 yards a game. I think it's with 94 yards a game. But we're going to have to find a way to get creative a little bit and get the ground game going and force those safeties to come up and respect the run. If you can't run the football, they're just going to play two high safeties and then just make you throw it underneath. And the more times you have to snap it, the more likely you are to make a mistake. We saw that with the air raid, right? When teams just went drop 8, we had a dink and dunk all the way down the field. And now Fluff's also had another week to kind of rehabilitate. And you saw what happened with him last week. Just having him back, I think, is big. But this is a money game for guys like him. It truly is. And so I think, if memory serves me correct, Georgia has trailed in the second half against every SEC opponent. And Kirby Smart talked a little bit about that earlier in the week. He said they just don't get uncomfortable in those situations. And that's culture. right? It's like, hey, we're going to be fine. We're going to figure this thing out. And again, you look up here and you say, well, they lost that one game to Alabama. It should have been tied in the fourth quarter, but they elected to pass on a field goal. That's an important aspect of this thing. They very easily could be undefeated. And they're not the dominant team they have been, as we've discussed throughout the week. Still a very good team. And they do a lot of things to disrupt the passer, even though they're not quite getting there. As I've mentioned on Wednesday's show, they got 8 sacks this year. 6 of them are from linebackers because they do it. They run some games. They try to get you to commit, and next thing you know, they're chasing the quarterback. And I think one of the things that we've got to do too, speaking of chasing the quarterback, we got to keep Gunnar Stockton from killing us. And if you look at what he's done in the red zone, he's more likely to keep. You have to account for the quarterback run in the red zone. And I think maybe you run Nave Sanders out there a little bit more. I think what you saw what he did last week against Taylor Green late in that ball game, he was giving the guy fits. And so I think if you've got Nave Sanders out there, who I think is as fast or faster than Gunnar Stockton, I think that could be a real issue. Early in that ball game against Arkansas, and you may have missed it, we had Malik Sela kind of spying the quarterback a little bit. He's just not fleet of foot enough to keep up with Taylor Green. And, we make an adjustment. That's what great coordinators and great coaches do. So that's going to be a big aspect for us. We're going to have to neutralize the quarterback run. We got to put them, in third and medium and third and long type situations. And that involves winning on first and second down. Went to the coach's show last night, and Jeff Levy said as much. We've got to be able to win on first and second down. We can't put them in a scenario where they're getting 4 and 5 yards on first down and then kind of dictating terms to us. You got to get some negative plays, which means you probably got to sell out a little bit. But there's a ton of play action in this offense, a ton. Because all of a sudden you start creeping the safeties up there, they're going to throw one over your head. Now, you feel like Kelly Jones can run with their guys, but Diego Brumfield plays exceptionally hard, but Diego is a guy too that, not the biggest guy. And so they do some comeback route stuff. They do some 7 route. They do a lot of things out there to kind of get ball placement in a scenario where only their guy can catch it. And what I tell you, one of the guys that kind of jumped out to me, just kind of watching these games, and I don't know that I gave him enough credit on Wednesday. It's one thing to kind of look at the numbers and read the reports, but when you actually go watch these games, there's one guy, and I think he has to be big for them. It's Dylan Bell. He's only got 17 catches this year. He got the 1 touchdown, and that came against Alabama. But only averaging 23 yards a game. But you look at him out there, when he makes plays, they're big plays. But Zachariah Branch is a nuisance, man. Oh, my gosh, that kid is so good. And they use him as a return guy. They'll do some jet sweep action with him. They'll obviously throw it out there to him, but they try to get him out there in those bubbles. They do a lot of motion with him to get him paired up with a safety. And he's quick. He's probably more quick than fast, but he is a guy in the open field that's difficult to catch. But he's a guy that will get after you a little bit. Now, he's not getting a ton of explosives, but, man, like on third down, you throw him open, he's going to run away from people. Got 45 catches for 474 yards, but that's right at 10 yards a catch. Got a long of 47. But the reality of him is you have to know where he is at all times. He is an absolute nuisance, man. He is. And we haven't really played anybody quite like him. Not this year. We've had some of those big rangy receivers, right? I mean, you go back to Arizona State. Jordan Tyson was a handful. Chris Brazil from Tennessee was a handful. Wingo obviously was a handful. So we've played some very talented receivers, but I don't know that we've had a dynamic slot that we've had to prepare for defensively. So I'm interested to see, what Paul Rhodes and Mike McIntyre and Coleman Hutzler kind of cook up to kind of neutralize him. You're not going to stop him. You just want to kind of contain him a little bit. But I think Dylan Bell is a guy you got to watch too. He's not the fastest guy. He's really more of a possession receiver. He reminds me a little bit, kind of going back a few years. His build and his game reminds me a little bit of Aubrey Bell. Do you remember him? Wore 87 for us, played under Sylvester Croom. He kind of looks like that. He kind of moves like that. Might be a little more athletic than Aubrey, all due respect. But he's an interesting guy. He's intriguing. They've had some guys, too, that have kind of struggled, some with drops. I mean, Cass Jones is one of those guys that they use at times, kind of move him around to kind of set up some interesting stuff. But the thing about this Georgia team that really kind of jumps out to me, offensively especially, is everything is by committee. They spread the football around in the passing game and in the running game. And there's no one guy you say, okay, this is the guy we have to stop. Now, you feel that way about Branch, but the reality of it is even if you slow him down a little bit, they've got some guys that have some athletic ability that can hurt you. And they got some young receivers, too, they're kind of bringing along. And like that Lucky Lawson guy, watching him, or Lucky, pardon me, watching him in the Alabama game and the Florida game, it's a big target out there. I know he doesn't have a ton of stats, but in the red zone, that's a guy you got to watch. Lucky is a guy that you got to make sure you know where number 7 is. And if memory serves me correct, I think it was the Florida game that they didn't have a catch by a tight end, which is a rarity, I think, by Georgia standards. I mean, when you run as much as they do and you think about the quality of tight ends they've had under Kirby Smart, they've always kind of used the tight ends as, just some way to kind of keep you honest. And they'll kind of slip a guy out there, let him show block, and next thing you know, he's out in the pass pattern wide open. I'm checking these numbers, too, just to be on the safe side. Again, I've watched a lot of this stuff today, and so I'm just trying to kind of go back and remember. And there's no point in just kind of guessing when we can pull it up ourselves. But, looking at the receiving numbers here, Lucky played, did not have a reception. Zachariah Branch had 10 catches against Florida for 112 yards, but no touchdowns. And Dylan Bell, there's your touchdown. He had it against Florida, not Alabama. But 4 grabs for him in a ball game. So you can see, in the absence of Colby, they're trying to get Bell a little bit more involved. Noah Thomas had a big catch. But it's just one of these things you look at, and at some point, with the tight end being such a huge part of their offense, I suspect early in this ball game, with the crowd is rocking and you're trying to go pick up a first down, maybe you run a tight end out there, you run a little curl across the middle just to kind of get him going and get Gunnar Stockton kind of settled a little bit. But I think we can win the football game. I'm not picking us to win the football game. I'm picking us to cover it. I know that's a bit of a cop-out. What worries me so much about Georgia is second-half scoring. I don't know if there is a team in the country that makes better second-half adjustments than Georgia. I mean, and you can run the numbers yourself. I mean, how many times have you watched them this year and you think, Georgia's in trouble, but then they just kind of find a way to get it going? And they do, over and over and over again. It's pretty remarkable when you go back and just kind of check it all out. It truly is remarkable that this is a team that never feels like they're out of a game. And they're so good athletically that when you make a mistake, they recover pretty quickly so that you rarely ever just gash them. I mean, Jaden Wally play back in 2020 was kind of an anomaly. It just kind of how things go. But, the reality of it is we got to make sure that we're taking care of business. And I want to look at some things, too, like this, look at some conference numbers with you guys, too, just because I think it's important to look at. It's easy, when you get a couple blowouts early, and they've only played a couple of non-conference games. So it's been mainly, they've played 8 games, and 6 of them have been against SEC opponents. But, Chauncey Bowens, I think, is interesting, but he's 60 yards a game in the SEC. 60. Nate Frazier is the more explosive of the two, 46 yards. Gunnar Stockton averaging 34 yards. But you know what? You add that trio up, you know what? You're almost at 150 yards rushing. And if you get that in an SEC game, you feel pretty good about where things sit. So it's going to be that 3-headed monster. And Bowens is interesting, too. He's kind of a bit of a short strider, but his change of direction is really good. He wears 33, kind of an old-school type running back. He truly is. He's a guy that, big frame. Not the tallest guy, but he's got some girth to him. They like to use him on short yardage. But Nate Frazier, number 3, is very explosive. Hadn't scored a touchdown on SEC play. but he is a guy that has a nice burst. And Gunnar Stockton leads the team with 5 rushing touchdowns against Southeastern Conference competition. Receiving numbers in conference play, too. There's a big drop-off here, as you'd expect. Zachariah Branch still 39 catches, so just half dozen or so in non-conference play. But outside of that, it really drops off. Colby Young, we discussed him, he's out for the year, second leading receiver. And then Dylan Bell, the third leading receiver, has the same number, grabs 14, averaging just about 32 yards. But I think you can expect him, now they know for sure Colby's out, he's going to have to step up. But what I expect them to do is just come out and run the football. And I think the quarterback run is going to be a big part of this. We got to be prepared. We got to be honest at linebacker. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that at all. We're going to have to go out there and fit gaps, but we can't get so caught up worrying so much about them with the power run game between the tackles that we allow somebody to slip outside containment because we're pinching rather than just kind of getting upfield. We got some guys that play with their hand in the ground. They're going to get some push. But I think on the offensive side for the Bulldogs, as we mentioned, we got to get the run game going. And I think a lot of this just kind of centers around the offensive line. Fluff not quite 100%, but he's back. Booth, of course, big ball game last week, even though not necessarily as a runner. But I think you're going to have to mix in some quarterback run here. When you look at what Alabama did, what Ty Simpson did against them, what Lagway did at times against them, they burn them on the quarterback run. And Jeff Lebby obviously is a guy that's watched those same tapes. So don't be surprised if you see Blake Shapen pull it a little bit early in the ball game. And maybe you mix Camario in a little bit too, especially in short yardage and in the red zone, and give them something else to look at. And Camario's a marked man now. People understand he's not just a short yardage running back coming in here. He is the guy that can throw the football, but also, too, when he drops back to pass and you don't get to him, he's going to make you pay. So that's something else that Jeff Lebby has given our opponents to prepare for and to think about, which makes you more multiple. It makes you more difficult to game plan for. But Blake Shapen is athletic enough. I don't know where this thing got out there that he's a statue or whatever. It's just that's not correct. And not to mention, we've coached him this year to be more mindful of taking unnecessary hits. So we haven't run a lot of quarterback run for him, but you also hadn't seen Blake Shapen going out there like taking on tacklers down the field. He's done it a couple times, but he did it against Arizona State. But the reality of this whole situation is we're going to have the quarterback run, period. And that quarterback draw that we've run a few times, everybody's got it on tape now, and it's something else to think about. Because if everybody's pushing up in their rushing lanes and all of a sudden Cannon Boone is alone, then Blake can kind of ride him and have a nice game there. I mean, we ran that against Arkansas. We ran that against Florida. We've run that a few times, and it's been a very successful play for us. So we're going to have to mix in some quarterback run, and I think at times you're going to have to get Blake outside the pocket. I think you're going to have some design rollouts, maybe even some play-action rollouts to get those backers to bite a little bit and then run some high-low concepts to the sideline to give him an opportunity and maybe even a bit of a run-pass option. And I don't just mean a standardized RPO play, but maybe it's a designed pass play and you get outside and they don't pick him up and he can run ahead. Just got to be smart. I mean, again, even though this Georgia team's probably not going to have 8-9 guys drafted off this team this year, it's a very talented team. And again, you work through the numbers, and a lot of it doesn't make any sense. And I've talked to some of our people. I'm like, guys, they got 8 sacks, and they've only forced 6 turnovers, and they're giving it right at 40% on third down conversions. How are they getting off the field? They're getting off the field because they tackle really well. And that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to break tackles. We're going to have to do a good job fighting for those extra yards. You got to make them play defense. And I think with our odd splits at times, when you go back and look, there's a lot of similarities formationally from what we do to what Tennessee does. Now, we want to run it a little more than they do. But Tennessee had a great level of success against this Georgia defense. Tennessee put up 41 points in that game, which is a season high for the Georgia defense. Ole Miss put up 35. And so maybe there's some things because our offenses are very similar. Obviously, Jeff Lebby spent a lot of time with Lane Kiffin. Spent a lot of time with Josh Heupel. And so you know the nuances of those schemes and what worked and what didn't. And I think that's one of those things you can go back and kind of pull and learn from because of the similarities between the two offenses, or really, I guess, three offenses in that respect. But what's interesting, you go back and look at this Tennessee game, Tennessee just jumps all over them. They do. They just jump all over them. And I think that's the challenge for Mississippi State, is in the event that you're able to get a lead, you cannot sit on the lead. You can't just start milking clock. And not that Jeff Levy's been known to do that. We can't allow the edge to come off, because this Georgia team has proven time and time again to be a team very capable of coming back in fourth quarters. They have done it over and over and over, right? I mean, it's just we're going to have to – we talk about them being able to take a punch. We're going to have to knock them out. They're not going to quit. As simple as that. They're not going to quit. And we're going to have to make plays late to win this football game. And we ought to be pretty comfortable in these situations now. We've been in 5 of them. We've won 2 and lost 3, but we could argue we should have won all 5. And you guys feel the same way I do. You give the kid at Florida some credit for making a play, right? You give the kid at Texas credit for making a play. Again, I say you kick that ball out of bounds. It's a different story today. But they're not going to just go away. It's just not going to happen. They're not just going to look at this and say, you know what? It's just not our day. Championship caliber programs just don't operate that way, And I think, again, kind of looking at some numbers here, we talked about them taking that initial punch against Florida. They punched first. They got up 7-0. But then you look up, it's 10-10. Then it's 17-10. And then you win the game late. And again, I think Florida did some things to hurt themselves. Georgia could have scored again there at the very end, and the margin of victory is a little bit bigger. You look, against Ole Miss, just 3 points in the first quarter. They get it going in the second. Auburn, no points in the first quarter, and they get that field goal to close out the half, that controversial field goal, and ultimately go on to win the football game. Against Alabama, no points in the first quarter. They get 14 in the second to make it a game again. Georgia and Tennessee, 7 points in the first quarter, just 11 in the fourth. But, that's when they had to go for 2. It's so interesting when you begin to look at this thing. Georgia just has a tendency to get better the deeper the ball game goes. When it's winning time, they are at their best. And so you have to prolong that as long as you can. You got to shorten the game, but you got to get separation, and you can't be like, again, you jump on those Arizona State guys and you think this is going to be a blowout. Next thing you know, you're having to score in the final minute to win the game. We got to avoid that. Because I just think they're going to be more comfortable in those scenarios than we are. Even though we've got some experience this year, I think this is where you guys come in big. I think you guys late in these ball games, I think you can be, pardon the phrase, the 12th man. I think you can help sustain this team and get the victory. And I'm hoping that's the case because this is a beat-up Georgia football team, but they're still very talented. We're going to have to play our best game to beat them. But can you only begin to imagine what it would feel like if we walk out of there victorious on Saturday, knowing we're headed to Missouri to play for postseasoning position against a team that's down to a third-team true freshman quarterback? Be a lot of optimism and probably a lot of tickets sold for the Egg Bowl. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com, and you can have the same book that the players have. Yeah, the Diamond Dog Classic players have. Yeah, get signed copies of that for Christmas. Also, Flim Flam, Starkville, Alpha Dogs, Dog Pile. Every Bulldog needs a copy of Dog Pile. And When the Bottom Falls, again, I get more messages about that. Got 2 this week about this book, and it's very special to me. Dial 662-268-7601. You can speak directly to my wife, Dana. You can tell on me if you feel like you need to. But she'll answer your questions about floating. We got some of the baseball wives floating tonight, and we got some of the baseball wives floating tomorrow. And so it's not just for them. It's for you too. And if you think floating may be for you, and I encourage you, I think it's for everybody. I wish everybody would float. I tell people all the time, I don't have to sell you anything. I just got to get you in the pod once. And about halfway through that float, you're going to be like, hey, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I want to do this again. So call her, again, 662-268-7601. You can find more about floating at TrueRest.com. And come join us over at GenesPage.com. If you're a full paying member, you have the ability to get the Paramount Plus platform, streaming platform. As a matter of fact, I just watched the last available episode of Tulsa King Season 3, and I'm riveted. I love that show, man. I do. I love it, and I can't wait. I'm trying to get this done because Landman Season 2 is coming soon, and I got to dedicate time to watch Billy Bob Thornton and Allie Lauder. I have to. I'm hooked on that show too. And so there's some great programming on there, and of course you get that included as part of your Gene's Page membership, provided you're a full paid member. So they're going to offer you a promo code if you want to turn that down and just, hey, get full price Gene's Page and get the Platinum, the Paramount Plus platform available too. You can. Yeah, it's completely up to you. So it's your money, and you may say, hey, I don't really care about that. I'd rather just get Gene's Page and get the discount. It's completely up to you too, but we'd love to have you come join us over at genespage.com, the premier Mississippi State media entity of all time. That's right. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you back on Monday. Happy to get this show up for you a little bit earlier too. I didn't have a lot to do today, and I'm like, you know what? Instead of me pecking away at the keyboard, I think I'm going to do this, and then I'll just write in the morning, and I'll get the evening off, and I'll go watch a little TV until the bride gets home. But again, until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends and enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.